Hi, it's What If Wednesday time with Susan Bennett Fisher and Martin Fisher, the co-founders of Body of Nine. What if we could stay in love?
That would be nice.
Isn't it nice? We fall in love with what we're attracted to. We talked about attraction last week.
Yes.
You can see our What If Wednesday on attraction on Facebook, YouTube, and on our special TV channel.
Engagement and connection as well.
Engagement and connection as well. So we start off attracted to someone, usually someone that's familiar to us. So you're not for you, those of you who are new to our show, we each have 9 centers in our body. And when we're born, one is born active. And it shapes how we experience life, how we take in information, affects our senses, and so much of who we are. In our families, natural numbers don't repeat. So everybody in the family actually has a different kind of body. Sometimes I like to call it your space suit, and you each are wearing a different kind of space suit, equipped in a different kind of way of being here on planet Earth. And we are attracted to people wearing spacesuits that we are familiar with.
Absolutely. And so there's a lot of differences between each of the spacesuits, or each of the natural numbers as we call it. There's 3 natural numbers in the head. There's 3 natural numbers in the top of the torso.
The chest.
In the chest, and 3 natural numbers in the lower body. And each of the natural numbers has a different way of experiencing the world, as Susan said, and a different way of being in the world. You'll know as we go through these presentations or these shows, everything we do, that Susan and I have a very different energy. The speed at which we speak is different. The energy in our voices is different.
The volume of our voices.
And the volume, yes. And if you watched us last week, you would see that by activating different parts of our body, the cadence and the volume of our energy changes, our voice changes. Why is this important? This is important because in your family, as Susan said, your brothers and sisters aren't like you, your parents aren't like you, and your partner isn't going to be like you in relationship. We've yet to find any real relationships where partners share the same natural number, especially partners that have children. So if you and your partner have children, I will guarantee it that your partner's not like you and your children aren't like you. And we'll be covering what this means for you and your children going forward. But for today, what we really want to talk about is, now that you have a partner, you fell in love. How did you fall in love? Well, we talked about that to some degree last week, but we'll cover that very briefly here. But how do you stay in love? What is it that you can do to keep that connection to the person that you first fell in love with?
Like me.
Like you.
Remember.
I remember.
I'm here too.
You're here,
That's
yes.
right.
We take it in turns.
We do. So when you fall in love, it starts with attraction. And then, for me, in so many ways, love is a choice. Eventually you make a choice to choose somebody. And some of the natural numbers, actually, it's need to make a more conscious choice. And some of us, I joke, are chosen.
Yes.
In Martin's and my case, neither of us really did any choosing. We just knew we had to be together. And so in our connection, in our relationship, we personally had a sense of destiny, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I think so.
And not everybody gets that. It depends on where you are in your life and what's going on. But the attraction piece comes from what how you're familiar receiving love. So we give love from the region that's active in our body. I give love from my chest, and Martin
Actually, it comes out of the top of my head
he
like a
flows
big golden
over,
fountain.
And I feel it, and it's lovely. But it's not, for us, eye contact related.
No.
Whereas 4 out of 9, it is eye contact related. You have to actually make that contact. We've talked about all this stuff in our other What If Wednesdays and on our webinars. Please visit all of our various resources. Our Facebook page has our videos. Susan Bennett Fisher has some videos from me. And on Facebook, we have our YouTube channel. And we are going to have a new special.tv channel where you'll be able to have everything all in one place. So if we say something you don't understand, you can go back to those videos and keep up with where we're going as we're teaching about Body of Nine.
Because this is actually a lifestyle. Once you understand that the people around you are different, once you understand the important people in your life are different, you can learn how to be more connected to them and understand that the gifts they're giving you are gifts. They're not them being just difficult. They are literally experiencing the world in a different way than you do.
And in the beginning, that's intriguing.
Yes.
It's like, they're kind of a bit of a mystery, but you've got that attraction thing going, and you love what they bring to you. You love that your partner is different than you. You love how they challenge you and ask you to be more. And in the beginning, that is exciting, and it's you have all the chemical things that go on with falling in love and all those things going on. But over time, we settle into a different kind of love, and that love has a familiarity to it. And then we start to develop classic conflicts,
Mm-hmm.
and we develop classic ways of giving that love to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not careful, what you fell in love with, you start to pick apart.
And some of the reasons behind that could be, we believe, that because you're used to receiving love from your parents, it's kind of a hackneyed phrase, but often we marry someone of the same natural number as our parents or become our partners. And so not only do you have the excitement of being in a relationship with someone whose love energy you understand, but you're also dealing with relationships with your parents, which most of us, our parents do the best they can to raise us. But I don't think there's any case in the world where you can't look around and say, well, there's a couple of things I wish my parents had done differently. And if you try bringing that history into the relationship with your current partner, who probably doesn't have those same issues, then it can get a little bit difficult.
Well, let me reframe that just a tiny bit, which is, that relationship with your parents, if you're lucky, is comfortable as well.
Yeah.
It's familiar, it's comfortable, and you get that same place with your partner as well, where it becomes familiar and comfortable. But if there were classic conflicts with your parents, they may or may not be the same with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the really important things about maintaining your relationship with your partner, is not confusing your relationship with your partner with your relationship with other loved ones. So in life in general, it's great to heal your relationship with those primary natural numbers before you or outside of the relationship you have with your partner.
Absolutely.
So that's a really helpful tip. Is wait, is this, if you see a classic conflict, is this really a conflict with my partner, or is this really a conflict with my mother?
So the first step in all this is figuring out who you are.
Absolutely.
And there's various different paths to do that. Obviously, reading our book, getting identified with us or in various other places. But once you know this, even if you never know your natural number, being in a relationship with someone else, it certainly starts to help to be, who are you?
Right.
Making sure that your own body, making sure that you know who you are through whichever path you go on. Because until you're comfortable and know who you are, it's really hard to separate the nature versus the nurture. Your natural number is your nature. It comes and stays with you for your entire life, from even perhaps before you're born. But the world impacts you all the time, and that becomes your nurture. So step one, being in a relationship with anybody and staying in love, is if you can be you and know who you are, it enables you to be more comfortable working with your partner, and also for them to be more comfortable knowing with you. So,
absolutely. So step one, know yourself, and that's getting your natural number identified, understanding how your body works, and how you show and give love, and how that shows up in your relationship, how you show up, and what you need. Also, that's another important part of it, is when we learn about our natural number, we also learn, we get validated in our needs and our challenges and our desires, and that becomes much more clear. So you can make that more clear to your partner. You can more clearly communicate what you need and want in that relationship.
so that's last week we were talking very much about how do you find somebody and how do you connect to that person? What is the engagement and the connection? Now we've moved forward a little bit, few days, few months, weeks, years into the relationship. How do you keep that going? And that's where we want to focus the rest of this morning on. Basically, you get to this place. Why am I here? Why am I with this person? As Susan said, to us, love in many ways is a daily choice. And the more that you have in common with the person, the more that it is easier to make that choice. And most of the time, it's a very unconscious choice, which is awesome. Each of the natural numbers actually makes that choice in a different way. 4 of the 9 natural numbers make that choice because they're in relationship, and relationship is important to them. It is their primary driver. 5 of the 9 natural numbers need some commonality, need some shared experiences. And the more shared experiences, the more and stronger that relationship becomes. Then all of a sudden you wake up one morning and say, who is this person? Why am I with this person? So a couple of steps, if it ever happens to you, the first thing is remember who you fell in love with. What was it that attracted you to that person? What was the initial parts? What was the fun, exciting, early dynamic parts, the live parts, the hot parts of that relationship that have become a more ongoing daily connection?
Well, and ironically, they're buried in your conflicts.
Absolutely.
So the things you're fighting about are also the things you fell in love with. So there, where the sticking points you can pay attention to is like, oh gosh, we always argue about blah, and then you can look at blah and say, oh my God, that's what I fell in love with. Let me remember the good parts about blah. And so it's about reconnecting through remembering and curiosity to the core of who you are in your relationship.
And one way to do that is have conversations with your partner about what were the early days of the relationship? What was your song? What was the place you went? Where did you go to eat? Where did you have pizza? What was your favorite pizza? What did you share? Taking yourself back to remember the days before the junk started happening, and before you get to this place of, well, daily life gets in the way and takes some of the passion and the excitement away, but it gets deeper. But the memories are still there. Bringing that memory of how you were together in the early days of your relationship is a really, really important part of maintaining and deepening what you currently have.
And that lets you also appreciate the growth you've had in your relationship. Relationships aren't static, and if you try to hold them static, that's another problem. So when you're building a relationship, going back to where it came from reminds you of those roots and those core things, and also shows how much you've grown. I mean, I like Martin so much better now than I did when we first got together.
Mm-hmm.
I like all aspects of you, and you're a much richer, deeper person, and I appreciate all that about you.
And I appreciate everything you've got too. Yeah.
Why, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, and we're growing constantly in relationship if we keep bringing ourselves more present in the relationship and learn better how to connect.
It would be really hard for us to keep being as together and as close as we keep becoming without actually understanding and following a lot of these steps ourselves. The things that we're talking about are not things that we just made up. We practice them on a pretty much daily basis, as you can tell from the appreciation that we share with each other, because we do appreciate each other, and our lives would be nowhere near as rich and fun if we weren't doing that at the same time.
And when Martin irritates me, which of course he never does that, that's when I remember it's like, okay, what am I complaining about? Am I actually complaining about a need I don't have it's not being met? Have I communicated to him what I need? Why is he doing the same thing over and over again? So we call these recurring problems, perpetual issues that resurface over and over again. So, we have a recurring issue about when Martin doesn't value himself as much as I think he should value himself. And so I sometimes push him, and his response is to put up a wall when I do that. And that's a recurring conflict that we have. So I've had to learn not to push him, but to find a way to communicate his value to him in such a way as he can actually hear the value and respect himself as a result of it, not to push me away and say I'm wrong. And so that, when learning to pay attention to your perpetual problems and look what's really going on there for both sides of you.
Right.
And perpetual problems also come from the root of your natural number. That comes from, for Martin, his built-in requirement to be very fair. If it's not fair, Martin's hot buttons go off. I don't care about fairness. I care about what's going on right now, what's most important, what's most alive. And so sometimes I'll go in a direction and he'll say, Susan, that is not fair. I'm like, so what? And so we have a perpetual issue around fairness versus not worrying about it. And so we understand these perpetual issues and how they relate and where they come from. And I've had to learn to respect Martin for his requirement for fairness, because that's part of his job as a 5.
So a lot of the things that Susan's talking about are not specific to Martin and Susan.
No.
They're very specific to the natural number 5 and natural number 6.
Yes.
And as you can figure out, there's 81 different ways that people are together, although people tend not to be together with the same energy. So 72 different ways. And people have asked us, okay, what is a good pairing? The answer is any pairing is good.
Any pairing is good.
Any pairing can be difficult.
And any pairing has similar classical problems.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So we spend some of our time talking to people, helping them understand, okay, your nature has helped you get to this place, and these are the issues that that your nature and your partner's nature are going to have. And 99 times out of 100, that's exactly where the pain points are, because the pain points are very, very specific to your nature. Actually, less than your nurture, which may be a bit of a surprise to the people listening. Your nature is often the source of the attraction and also the source of the friction in any sort of relationship.
And the woundings in your nurture,
And the
where
woundings.
you weren't supported and loved for the things that are your nature.
Absolutely.
And so those are the triggers that can be triggers.
Mm-hmm.
But they actually might feel like they come from your nurture, but they come from your nurture because your nurture didn't support your nature. So it's kind of layered that way.
So some of the things that happen and possibly should need to happen in a partnership is that any healing that you need to do, you should probably be working on healing yourself. You are never going to be able to heal the people around you. You can't heal your partner. You can give them space to heal. But it's actually your job to heal yourself, not to heal your partner. Your job, I believe at least, is to give your partner the space to heal themselves and love them so that they can move through that and grow with you. But they need to be healing themselves outside the relationship.
And we really encourage you. Most people don't know about Body of Nine and natural numbers. So that means your therapist doesn't know if you're working on healing outside. We really thoroughly encourage people to, do that therapy work. And we also encourage you to understand your natural number and to bring that awareness to your therapist, because it's an important part of understanding how you engage in the world. We have a couple of tidbits of tips and tricks and things we really recommend in relationship. These are somewhat relationship advice because I am a trained relationship coach, but also because of what we've learned in our travels through the world identifying people. The most important thing is, if you're triggered, please don't engage. It is so detrimental to your relationship, because when we're triggered is when we say the things that are hurtful. When we're hurt, we say the things that are hurtful. We always encourage all couples, all partnerships, all friends to have an agreement and an understanding not to engage when they're triggered, and a process for recognizing when they're triggered and an agreement for how you're going to respond. Martin and I have an agreement that if we start to raise our voices, we try to split up. He goes upstairs, I go downstairs, until we can not raise our voices with each other.
And we get back together and have a loving conversation.
A real conversation.
Yes.
Where we aren't coming from our hurt places.
From our hurt places, our inner child.
Yeah.
There is a place for our inner child in everyone's life, but our inner child is not the person that should be doing the conversation with somebody else's inner child without a fair amount of training. I think it's a very dangerous place to be, especially because some of the natural numbers are really, really good at finding the point where to stick the knife. So,
and that's what we do to our partners.
Yes, exactly right. So in any situation,
all of the natural numbers are good.
Right.
It's about knowing your partner.
Yeah, and in any situation, when you start to get to this point of, I can't control what I'm saying, if you can learn at that point to say, oops, this is not going to be good for us, just go upstairs, cool down, go outside, have a cup of coffee, take a walk, anything.
Deal with your stuff.
Yeah, to get you back into a calmer place where, if you can get back to being with your body, because our bodies are an amazing source of power and knowledge and wisdom. No matter what your natural number is, whether you're an even number, very, very body-based, and your wisdom comes from your body, or an odd number where your body is a source of information but not the main source of processing, our bodies still are the only way that we have to interact with the world around us.
When you get identified, you get to learn a simple physical adjustment that helps you get present right away. So each of the natural numbers is active in a particular region. And when you learn how to engage the muscles and bones in that region to activate the body, it's a way of recovering that's very quick, which enables you. So sometimes Martin and I can recover in the middle of a shouting match. Usually it depends on how loud it's gotten. But the idea is, what was I saying? You scrolled the thing.
I scrolled the thing.
Oh, when use your body to recover. Learn about your natural number so that you can learn to use your body to recover.
One of the best ways that we've found to be in connection with the person that we're with, each other in this case, but in general, the conversation and the suggestion we have for all of you guys is eye gazing. And of the 9 natural numbers, natural number 1, 2, 3, 4 give it the gift of themselves through their eyes. Natural numbers 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 actually can be very uncomfortable with eye contact. And so to some extent can 1 through 4. But when you can give yourself permission and can be vulnerable and to gaze into each other's eyes, that's a great place for connection.
It's not a good place to start from if you're triggered.
Not at all.
But when you're consciously building connection with your partner, just sitting and being with them, because at first it's like, oh, interesting. There's Martin. We're not connected. But then to learning to activate parts of your body to bring more connection in. I could bring my 6 in so he can feel me because I know he loves me. He loves my 6. I could bring his 5 into my body. And it's less intrusive to him than my 6 is. And I can bring my 2 in to connect with him, to appreciate, and to bring the focus of the energy into the relationship. I can bring my 1 in to let him see me.
And be seen.
So our bodies are equipped to build relationship through eye contact.
So you may be asking yourself, well, how do I know what my partner wants? And how do I know what I want? There's a very, very simple test you can do that may not give you enough information, but it's a place to start. Because as it turns out, we move from a natural number center. So all you have to do is get floppy for a second. And as you sit up, you're actually going to lead that sit up through a natural number center.
Yeah, this is an exercise in our channel, our special TV channel, and on our Facebook page that we've taught before, where you sit on your sits bones on a chair or standing. I'll stand, you sit.
Okay.
And then you just completely floppy eyes your body, relaxing all your muscles. Let yourself breathe a little bit down there, and then take a deep breath. And you naturally lift and activate your personal movement center when you do that, whether you know it or not. So it's a great, quick recovery. Now, that may be something you got to agree on your partner too. Hey, let's do the floppy breathe in thing as a way of just recovering in the moment.
It really puts you in your body. It really gives your body this honesty and this ability to be itself, which may sound really strange, but if you do it a couple of times, you'll find that your body gets to be able to speak to you.
Yeah, and it's just calming. It's a calming thing. So your body is going to, as you learn more and more about it and about how to activate the centers in your body and how to rely on the power that comes with your natural number, your relationships improve because you're more aware of your partner and you're more aware of yourself.
So, well, the takeaway from this is be in your body. Remember what you fell in love with. Discuss what you fell in love with. And know that your partner is not like you. They don't care about what you care about. They don't process data the way that you process data. They may not even look at you when you'd like them to, or maybe they look at you when you don't want them to. But they are definitely worthy of being honored.
Yes, and love is a choice. And then I have one last tip. We got asked on our Instagram page by a woman who was an 8, and she was trying to communicate with her 4 partners. She said, we miscommunicate all the time. Miscommunication typically comes because from the fact that we're 9 physiologically different people. We use language differently. Words like love, engagement, connection, intuition, they all have 9 distinct meanings. And so the last tip we'll leave you with today is curiosity is so valuable. Be curious as to the meanings of the words that your partner and your friends and your loved ones use, because they're going to have different meanings than what you think. Do not impose your view on what's coming at you. That's the fastest way to cause conflict.
Right. And I'm sure that the people, your partner, you've been with them for a while, you may have special words, you may have secret handshakes, whatever it is that you do to share. There's other things that you actually unconsciously connect to with each other. And it's a great time to have a conversation over dinner. What are we going to talk about today? Well, what does this word mean to you? Because I guarantee you it's not likely that it means the same thing to them as it does to you. Ask your partner, what have they been thinking about? What do they care about? How are they feeling? There's a whole bunch of things your partner would love you to ask that you may or may not have been doing.
You would even ask them what they'd like you to ask them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They may not be able to answer
may not be
that,
able to know,
depending
right?
on their natural number.
But they might at least like to be asked. You never know.
Yeah, and we all want to be heard.
Right.
And I think that's also another really important thing in communication is making sure the person that you're talking to has felt heard.
Right. And just because this is, it's Valentine's month, it's February, we're talking about relationships. But there's one more relationship that I want you to think about, please. And that's the relationship with yourself. Even if you're not in a relationship right now, even if you don't have a partner, or your partner has hurt you, or that you're not currently in a place you'd like to be, have a relationship with yourself. The person that you look at in the mirror is as important as any other relationship in your life. And having a conversation with that person can change your life as well.
And that's where getting identified, getting your natural number identified is an important part of loving yourself. Because this is actually the part of you that you probably do love.
Right.
It is part of you that needs to be acknowledged. It is the strength, it is the power of you.
You have your own personal magic, or your superpower, however you want to call it, and it's likely that that has never been honored in the way that perhaps it should be.
And it's for you to first find out how you can honor that yourself before you can ask for others to love and honor that. Because often in relationships, part of that perpetual conflict comes from not feeling seen and heard, and not even knowing that that's actually what you're looking for. So we really urge you, get identified. If you don't know your natural number, if you do know your natural number, get your family identified. If you know their natural numbers, start to work on activating the natural numbers in your body. The more you bring this into your consciousness and into your daily conversation, the faster it evolves.
And the happier and the more fun you have in life.
Absolutely.
We say it all the time, and it seems to be true, that this is a place of learning and a place to get on a really happier, more fulfilling life.
Yes.